The color of fat is yellow, and the shape is like globs of fat in various sizes, found both above and below the waist, located anywhere in the body and bordered by the skin and the muscles, the connective tissue. And fat is the stored substance within the fat cells throughout the body. Its most important function is a form of stored or potential energy. It also serves to insulate us from the external temperatures, especially the cold. And sometimes we have these kind of colloquial sayings like having a fat bank account, which means a big bank account. So it's interesting, as we sit with fat and what it can evoke. For many of us in our Western culture, being called fat is not necessarily a compliment, but I actually, many years ago in the early 1980s, I spent some time in India, and sometimes people would say, Bob, you're fat. And it was actually, they were saying it as a compliment. And the thing was that if you got sick and you had a little bit of extra energy, then that was going to be good. And so it's very interesting, like in that culture, it was a compliment, though perhaps in other cultures, it's a big insult. Just feel into this fact, like even slender people still have fat. Matter of fact, it's the only time that we might discover hardly any fat in the body is like a newborn baby, but even soon enough, beginning to drink the milk, which has fat in it, the fat begins to accumulate. But sitting with fat and all that it evokes physically and mentally and emotionally, fat. And so just allowing it may evoke judgments and different feelings, and this is all part of it. It can evoke sometimes some of the personal narratives and stories around this particular part of the body fat, and it's also on the impersonal part, it's just stored energy. Interesting interweaving of the personal and the impersonal, what we bring to it, and for just what it is, fat. Now let us just gently make a transition from fat to sweat, which is a colorless liquid and slightly salty to taste. Shape is like water. Sweat is found both above and below the waist, located on the outer skin, bordered by skin and muscle. This is a salty and water secretion that comes from the glands of skin pores. Sweat function is it helps cool the body by evaporation. Daily amount is variable from a quart, although it can, depending on a lot of physical activity, be quite a lot, even 2 to 4 gallons in a day. There are two kinds of sweat. The smelly sweat from the feet, the groin, the armpit, and non-smelly sweat in other areas of the body. Of course, sometimes we have different colloquial sayings like sweat equity or go to the sweat lodge or don't sweat it, keep cool. Sweat. But again, this can be very evocative, maybe school time and going to school and noticing you're underneath your arms, your shirt is wet, and who knows what that can evoke. All these different, just natural functions of the body, but what we may bring to it. Sweat. And if we didn't sweat, we'd be in big trouble. Sweat. Of course, in the indigenous traditions, the sweat lodge is purification. Perspiration, sweat. Now let us gently shift from sweat to blood. The color is different shades of red. It's a thin liquid, found both above and below the waist, located in the heart, the arteries, the veins, the capillaries. Blood is the fluid that circulates through the heart, the arteries, the veins, carrying nourishment, electrolytes, hormones, vitamins, antibodies, heat, and oxygen to the tissue, and it also takes away waste matter and carbon dioxide. There's also menstrual blood. Blood consists of 22% solids and 78% liquids. Red blood cells are formed at a rate of 2 million per second, and within one tiny droplet of blood, there are 5 million red blood cells, 300,000 platelets, and 10,000 white cells. The human body contains around 8 to 10 pints of blood. Very interesting to say that every square inch of human skin contains 20 feet of blood vessels. When blood passes through the lungs, it gives up carbon dioxide and absorbs oxygen, and after leaving the heart, it is carried to the tissues and throughout the venous system. The blood moves through the circuit of the vascular system in about 1 minute. The plasma transports nutrients, waste products, hormones, carbon dioxide, other substances, helps support and balance electrolytes, and provides some thermal regulation. Each day, human blood travels 60,000 miles, about 2,500 miles an hour. Blood. And so now gently shifting from the blood to pus. The color of pus can be yellow or reddish depending on where it is in the body, and it's from the rupture of small blood vessels. It also can at times look more bluish and green. Pus is walled off the shape by a membrane called an abscess, and it's found both above and below the waist, located anywhere in the body, bordered by the skin. Its definition, it's a protein-rich liquid produced during inflammation with white blood cells. It's a liquid byproduct of inflammation. And actually, it really supports the healing process when we have an injury. It's part of the healing process. Pus. Again, there may be different stories, different feelings. And yes, so whatever comes up personally, this is what's here to be known, acknowledged. And also from the impersonal, it's this liquid byproduct supportive during inflammation to help in the healing process. Pus. And now let's gently shift from pus to phlegm. And the color of phlegm is white when in healthy phlegm. It's normally clear or white, I should say. And yellow phlegm is normally a sign of an infection in the case of the common cold, and greenish and brownish phlegm is nearly always a sign of infection. It also could be a sign of pneumonia or some internal microbleedings. That phlegm is a thick liquid and found above the waist, located in the lung, the throat, and the mouth. The definition is a thick, sticky fluid from the respiratory passages. Phlegm is produced by the respiratory system and particularly expelled by coughing. Its composition varies depending on the climatic, genetic, and the state of the immune system. But basically, it's a water-based gel consisting in glycoproteins, immunoglobulins, and lipids. It's really, the phlegm can be helpful for lubrication to help clear the throat and the lungs. Phlegm. So again, this may have some personal types of evokings, and then on the impersonal, it's there to help lubricate, to help clear the lungs, cough out, serves a purpose. Phlegm. And so now gently shifting to our last liquid part, which is bile. The color is more yellowish from the liver, and it's more brownish and green in the gallbladder. And just remembering that the liver manufactures bile and it's stored in the gallbladder. It's a thick fluid found above and below the waist and stored in the gallbladder, bordered by the various digestive organs. As mentioned, yes, the bile comes from the secretion of the liver. It's a digestive juice with an emulsifying action that facilitates the digestion of fats in the intestines. That's why people who have their gallbladder removed have to be very careful with their diets so that in the digestion of fats. The human liver can produce close to 1 liter, like about a quart of bile every day. Imagine that, like in the store, pick up a quart of bile. The Greeks spoke about excessive bile that it had made someone have an aggressive temperament. Depression and other mental illnesses, melancholy, were ascribed to a bodily surplus of bile. This is the origin of the word melancholy. So interesting on the physical parts related to mental, emotional conditions. Bile. Yes, this bile is a digestive juice with an emulsifying action that facilitates the digestion of fats in the intestines. Bile. And so gently withdrawing from bile. And just taking a moment and just acknowledging whatever has arisen within you as you've been sitting with fat, sweat, blood, pus, phlegm, bile. And that these parts and functions of the body are connected, of course, to every other part and function, making this body whole and alive, each serving in its way to support health, life. So taking a moment and honoring this fathom-long body, and yes, along with its thoughts and emotions, it lies our world. May all embodied beings find the gateways into their heart and to grow with greater wisdom and compassion. Beginning to see more clearly through the narratives, the conditioning, the stories, the identifications, the beliefs that have obscured the heart. Awakening, this pathway of awakening, seeing through these stories, the lessening of greed and hatred and ignorance, the increasing of contentment, love, clarity, and understanding. May all beings dwell with peace. And so we honor this body, this vehicle that we live inside of, but also perhaps not get lost in its enchantment, understanding it as it is. And it is indeed this vehicle, this home that we live inside of to care for, and to understand and to have a wise and heartfelt relationship with it. Tsongkhapa writes that the human body at peace with itself is more precious than the rarest of gems. So cherish your body. It is yours this one time only. The human form is one with difficulty, and it is easy to lose. All worldly things are brief, like lightning in the sky. This life, you must know, like a tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing that comes of beauty that disappears so quickly thereafter. Human body at peace with itself is more precious than the rarest of gems. So sensing into this rare gem of your own body, opening with loving kindness and heartfulness, inviting in a sense of ease with inner being. And perhaps for just a little bit of time, we can just allow ourselves to be held in this heart of love and kindness energy. That for now we can just put down trying to push anything away or trying to get anything more, just as we are, imperfectly perfect as we all are, that we could just, for this moment, allow ourselves to take rest in the heart. Each and every one of us, allowing ourselves to be held. It's all that we are invited to do, is just allow ourselves to be held. Nothing else, just letting that in, to be held with great benevolence, with great kindness. Just being held with this great kindness, the falling away of any wantings or not wanting, so contentment, the open heart just naturally arise, just resting with contentment in the open heart. It's accompanied with this wise understanding, the dispelling of ignorance, understanding of the places where we get caught, activated in now being released from it and just being held with loving kindness, with contentment, with ease within our being. Now we are just part of the family of things, that these parts of the body are made of solids and liquids and motion and temperature, these primary elements that are found within the body and the natural world, as a sense of separation can begin to dissolve. The sense of connection and interconnection. Just taking some rest, feeling that sense of connection and interconnection, the solids, the liquids, the motion, and the temperature found within and around in the natural world. Perhaps why Einstein once said that separation is an optical delusion of our consciousness. Hardness of the teeth and the bones is found in the hardness of the world, rocks, cement. The liquids within the body are the same liquids coming from the oceans, from the sap of the trees, the waters. The movement of the breath in and out, and the workings of the digestive system, the ability to move our limbs, a sense of movement is found in the winds. The sense of temperature, the warmth, the coolness within the body, as well as in the natural world that we are part of. This family of things. Just resting in this heart. Connected and interconnected. Being held with love and kindness. Taking rest. Letting it just support and nurture and hold you. And as we take rest in this heart of loving kindness that is actually boundless beyond measure, just letting this whole universe rest inside its benevolence. May all beings here and everywhere find rest in the heart. This loving kindness is boundless in all directions. So wherever any beings, all living things, all material things, may all experience the rest and the blessings of the heart and take rest, being held with great goodness. May there be peace. So may all beings be with peace.